As-Salamu Alaykum. As-Salamu Alaykum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another evening of learning Islam with Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento. My name is Haazim Rashid. I am the Imam of Masjid As-Sabur, and this evening we're going to have the first of two parts about the month of Ramadan. Ramadan this year begins the first part of July and lasts until the first week of August. So we'll be watching and learning about the dates and talking about the process so everyone can be informed as Ramadan starts to come in exactly what the requirements are. But let us begin as usual. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. I openly bear witness there is no God but the one God, and I openly bear witness that Muhammad, to whom the Quran is revealed, is his slave servant and apostle. Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings be upon you. So as we begin to discuss Ramadan, I'd like to begin with the reading from our holy book, the Holy Quran, that talks about Ramadan and lays out the criteria for the performance of Ramadan. So we're going to look in chapter 2, Surah 2, Surah al-Baqarah, or the chapter of the cow, and we're going to look at ayats or verses 183 through 185. O ye who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, that you may learn self-restraint. Fasting for a fixed number of days, but if any of you is ill or on a journey, the prescribed number should be made up from days later. For those who can do it with hardship is a ransom, the feeding of one that is indigent, but he that will give more of his own free will, it is better for him, and it is better for you that you fast, if you only knew. Ramadan is the month in which was sent down the Quran as a guide to mankind, also clear signs for guidance and judgment between right and wrong. So every one of you who is present at his home during that month should spend it in fasting. But if anyone is ill or on a journey, the prescribed period should be made up by days later. Allah intends every facility for you. He does not want to put you into difficulty. He wants you to complete the prescribed period and to glorify Him in that He has guided you, and perchance ye shall be grateful. May God bless the reading of His Word. Now, let's talk about what this says. Fasting is prescribed. We have a translation that pictures fasting almost like a medicine. Now, why would fasting be a medicine? Because sometimes we have diseases that need a cure that we don't even know that we have. And I look at fasting as one of those cures. Why? Well, if you'll notice, in today's world, what is the biggest problem that people in America face? Obesity. What creates obesity? Overeating. What creates overeating? Lack of restraint or lack of control. What continues to enhance that? A continuing process of lack of restraint. Now, yes, there are people with medical conditions and other conditions, but for the most part, the majority of people that get into trouble with weight have a discipline problem as well as anything else. Now, let's look at the Muslim. The word that is used for self-restraint is really a taqwallah. In other words, a form of God consciousness. What it's saying is, in essence, it is prescribed for you so that you may become more conscious of your relationship to God. Why is that critical in understanding what fasting is for? Because fasting is a discipline to build faith. And because it is a discipline to build faith, everything about the fast is an exercise that should enhance your ability to grow in your relationship to God. Now, how does the fasting begin? Fasting begins when there is a sighting of the moon. And when there is a sighting of the moon, we can sight the moon with telescopes, but the way that the Muslims are supposed to sight the moon is with their eyes. Now, a lot of people do bring out telescopes and other things, because what you're really looking at is you're looking for the first sign of the new moon. Now, what is a new moon? A new moon is that dark sphere of the moon that is just beginning to be illuminated by the light of the sun. And really, it is almost a black sphere that you have to discern the shape of in the sky. As soon as that moon is sighted, the Muslims begin to fast. And we have people all over the world that are looking for that moon. Because you see, the practice of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was that you had to see the moon locally. You couldn't just sight it in one place and then every place starts fasting. You were supposed to sight it where you were, and then you start fasting, which meant that back in his time, people in one city might be fasting a different number or a different set of days than people in another city. Today we have what we call instantaneous communication. What that means is somebody who sees the moon in, let's say, Indonesia, can get everybody in the world that listens to them to begin the fast. But we always go through something that we affectionately refer to as the War of the Moons. The War of the Moons means whose sighting have you as a community agreed to accept in order to begin your fast. And that decision may be different in different communities in the same city. Sometimes here in Sacramento, you'll have 3 different dates for the beginning of Ramadan. And that makes it kind of hard to coordinate the end of Ramadan. But we begin when, for the sake of God, we acknowledge the sighting of that moon. And when that moon is sighted, we stop. Okay? The sighting of the moon occurs the night before the first day of the fast. Okay? Because in the Islamic world, your days run from sunset to sunset. So that the first day of Ramadan begins on sunset. Then the actual fast begins during the day of the next day. And you fast from Fajr, which we call dawn. Not sunrise, but dawn. What's the distinction between dawn and sunrise? Dawn is when the first light of the new day comes across the horizon. So if you were in a plain or a desert where everything was flat, you would see little prickles of light starting off, almost couldn't see them. And that's when you stop eating. Sunrise occurs when the rim of the sun rises above the horizon. Normally the dawn is an hour and a half or so before the sunrise. Now, why is that important? Well, in Sacramento, for example, because the sunrise can be 5 o'clock in the morning, we may be stopping eating at 3:30 in the morning. And then we pray and we read Quran until the sunrise. And then we get up and go about our day. Now, because in Sacramento in July, the sun may not set until 9:30 at night, you can't eat anything from 3:30 in the morning until 9:30 at night. Now, for those of you who are into numbers, that is roughly an 18-hour day. If we were in some place like, I don't know, Vancouver, the day might start at 2:30 and end at 10:30. Now, that is a 20-hour day. And if you go to the North Pole, there you basically have to give yourself a night because there won't be a night. Now, why is that so critical? Because the Muslim month of Ramadan rotates through every season of the year. So we have it rough in July and June and August when the days are long, but when it comes to November and December and January, the day is much shorter and the fasting period is accordingly shorter. Now, why do we fast through all the seasons? Again, because the tests that man will face go through all the phases of life. And this is just giving us an opportunity to practice our restraint under varying circumstances. Now, the big problem when you start fasting that early is you must make sure you drink adequate amounts of liquids. Now, a lot of people try and eat instead of drinking liquids. You will make yourself sick. Because the most important component of the human body is not the food, it's the water. And you got to make sure you keep those balances on the water. The second thing is, when you fast in Islam, you are refraining from food, water, cigarettes, anything you put in your mouth. No gum, no mints, no nothing. Now, you can use a little bit of mouthwash to keep your breath fresh if you start to get, bad breath, but you rinse it out and spit it out. You do not swallow anything. The other thing you have to refrain from is any sexual intercourse. You try and restrain all of the base human desires for that 30-day period. And if you are able to successfully complete the 30-day period of training, you come out in better spiritual shape. Sometimes you even come out in better physical shape. But we also have people who, because during Ramadan we have more caloric foods available, we have people that actually gain weight during Ramadan because when there's all that food on the table, although we're supposed to be exercising self-restraint, we exercise the self-restraint from 3:30 to 9:30, and from 9:30 to 3:30 we go crazy. So we need to avoid that as well, because the critical thing is this is a month where we're supposed to be eating and sharing as if we were poor. Because one of the things Ramadan is supposed to make us conscious of is of those people who have no money to eat. And so let's make a clear distinction here. In Ramadan, if you have no money to eat, you are not able to perform Ramadan. In other words, you must have food that you don't eat. You must have drink that you don't drink. If you don't have food and drink and you're just starving, and that is not fasting. And for those who don't have any food, we also give food away during Ramadan. We invite our neighbors, the whole community to come and join with us as we break the fast on a daily basis. Now, who doesn't have to fast? There are certain classes of people that don't have to fast. Children under the age of puberty are not required to fast. Insane people. And I don't mean people we think are crazy. I mean people that are legally adjudged insane, i.e. not able to control their own actions or minds. People who are too old or too sick to be able to fast. People whose health may be affected by fasting. People who may have diabetes or other kinds of diseases that don't respond well to fasting. So these people don't have to fast. And then people who are expecting hardship. What this really referred to is during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you were trying to travel somewhere, you could expect hardship. Now for us, hardship is, I gotta take my shoes off in the TSA line. Not quite the same. You try riding a camel 50 miles, or a horse 50 miles, or walking 20 or 30 miles. That's hardship. And under those circumstances, people were given an exemption. They were allowed not to have to fast. Also, expectant mothers or nursing mothers are allowed not to fast. And women who are on their menses are not allowed to fast. So, without these exceptions, everybody else is required to fast. Now, the first prerequisite of fasting is the intention to fast. Every day we get up and we basically say, I intend to make the fast today for Allah's sake. Now, some scholars say you can make the fast at the beginning of the month for the whole month, but I would rather err on the side of caution and state your intention on a daily basis. Now, once you've stated your intention to make the fast for the day, you begin the day with what they call suhoor. Suhoor is a light meal. Prophet typically had something like oats or wheat or something with milk and dates before the fast started. Depending upon what you want to do, you may start that fast that day. At the end of the day, we have iftar. Iftar consists of dates and water or dates and milk. If you'll notice, dates are pretty prominent in our diet during Ramadan. And one of the reasons for that is because dates are a very good source of natural sugars. So that if you're fasting, they give your system a boost of quick burning energy at the end of the day, and they help you start the day with quick burning energy. So that's why a lot of dates are used. The other thing that we also talk about is when you break the fast, before you actually eat, you go, "Oh Allah, I fasted for your sake, and I am breaking my fast from the sustenance you blessed me with. Please accept this fast for me." Now, why do we do that? Again, making ourselves conscious of our relationship to God. That's a critical thing. Now, once you've broken the fast, what we typically do is we then go and we break the fast, then we make the prayer. See, here are the believers waiting to break the fast. When we break the fast, we take dates and milk, and then we go and have maybe even a light bit of soup, but then we go and pray. Once we pray, then we have the iftar meal. And that's where you see all of this food that you typically don't see. Here's a picture of Obama's iftar meal for the Muslims in 2012. Every year, the White House hosts an iftar dinner, and Muslims from all over the capital region are invited to participate in the iftar meal. Here in Sacramento, we have an iftar meal at the Capitol. And normally we have something like 75 to 100 legislators that co-sponsor it and come and attend the event. And it is just an example of showing the acceptance of Islam in the wider society. Now, we're coming to the end of our time. I just want to make sure we have some understanding. If you'll notice in the Quran, God says He does not intend any difficulty for you. So there are some things that are allowed that would appear not to be eligible during Ramadan. For example, if you eat something unintentionally, like I still remember the day I got on an airplane, I've intended to fast. They bring out the coffee, set a cup of coffee in front of me. I start drinking the coffee and then suddenly realize, whoop, it's Ramadan. And I stop and don't have any more. As long as it's an unintentional eating or drinking by mistake, you do not break your fast. Let's say you overindulge in the morning for suhoor and your stomach gets upset and you end up vomiting. That does not break the fast. Now, if on the other hand you go and take your finger and stick it down your throat and make yourself throw up, that breaks the fast. But if it's unintentional, it does not break the fast. You are allowed to swallow your own saliva. So you don't go around all day going, pff, pff. So you're allowed to swallow your own saliva. Now, I know that sounds a little silly, but you would be surprised how many people can take things to an extreme. So we want to make sure and understand that this is a rational fast. The other thing is you can brush your teeth, you can bathe. You're not supposed to swallow the water if you take a shower, but you can bathe. Now, if you have to take medicine by injection, like for example for diabetes or something, you can take an injection and that doesn't break the fast. The other thing is, for people who are cooking, you are allowed to taste the food but not eat the food. So we don't want anybody cooking food they haven't tasted and then we get there and it's a great experiment. But these are just some of the things it is necessary to explain so people have mercy on themselves while still building up discipline. In the second part of our discussion of Ramadan, we're going to illustrate some of the people that have had to go through extraordinary difficulty practicing this religion because of their profession or their relationship to professional sports or things of that nature. So as we move on, I want to remind everyone, Masjid As-Sabur Sacramento is at 4920 15th Avenue until the end of June. For Ramadan, we will be opening at our new building at 4926 15th Avenue, Sacramento, California. We'd like to invite you to join us as we feed the poor every fourth Sunday of every month at Loaves and Fishes. We do this not just during Ramadan, but to make ourselves conscious of the need to help those less fortunate than ourselves every month. Come and join with us. You don't have to be Muslim to work. We put everybody to work. So come on and join with us that day. Loaves and Fishes is a great organization, and we will feed on a normal Sunday somewhere between 300 and 400 people. Again, 4920 15th Avenue. Jummah prayer is every Friday at 1 p.m. Our website is www.masjidassabur.org. If you have any questions or concerns, please come and visit us. Please email us. We want to hear from you. So we close as we open with all of the greetings of all of the prophets from Abraham to Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you for listening to this program. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.